Hey everyone, this is the pre-introduction to the introduction of the video, and I realized after I got done with what I thought was the first part that the whole video was going to be way too long. So I'm going to break it up into three parts. I hope you enjoy the first part, which is really the dark side of food challenges, the business and social media side. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. If you looked at the title of this video, The Dark Side of Food Challenges, it's going to be a little bit different video. It's also going to be my last video, so I'm also going to provide context as to why, and I'm likely going to jump around a little bit just because I've got a lot to cover in this video. First of all, the opinions expressed in this video is based on my experience. I do have some data that I will share with you, and then you can look at that data that I share and come to your own conclusions. But definitely just my opinion based on which has been now approximately 2.5 years doing food challenges. And I also want to share some of my background so you know where this opinion or opinions that I have may be coming from. So I'm going to share some links to some podcasts that I've done in the fitness industry in the description. And just to provide some background on that specifically, so I've been around in the fitness area or fitness industry since about 1995, and I actually started one of the first strength training websites, and I've had it, it's been a hobby, so fitness has been a hobby of mine. Actually, it's a lifestyle, not really a hobby. And so back then I had decided that all the time I was putting into trying to at least make a little bit of money in the fitness industry when I started. And if you look back then, there was a lot of, for example, people didn't even want to use credit cards online. And so I was at the very beginning of a lot of the technology too, when the internet first started. In fact, the fact that I'm an engineer allowed me to do coding myself, because not just anyone was putting up websites, because you had to have the knowledge to be able to actually code in what's called HTML. And today that's obviously not the case. Makes it much easier to get online and create a website, let alone, like I said, today, very easy again to take in money for products, etc. So the very first podcast really does a better job of giving my background. And so I've seen, if you look equivalent to doing food challenges, so I'm going to break it down into three major areas, I think. And the first one being really, and I wrote it all out here so you may see me looking down, is really what I call the business side of doing food challenges. And the reason I'm calling it the business side is just based on what I've observed with people out there that are doing food challenges. And so I'm going to cover that aspect of it, which again, there's parallels in lots of hobbies. And for me, definitively going into this was a hobby that I got into. And the other thing is I tend to immerse myself, maybe obsessively, obsessively into quote hobbies. And obviously, if you're talking about fitness, that's can be a very positive thing, depending on how you handle it, as far as immersing yourself in making your body more healthy. So the business side of it, or I should say social media side of it, and so again, look at the podcast so you can see kind of my background to show that I've been around a long time. And really it's different topics are covered, in general. You could be making candles, you could, whether eating challenges, you could be brewing your own beer and selling that, something again you enjoy doing, sewing and creating clothing, for example. So all the foundational things associated with the business side of it are really the same. And so again, I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to go into health and exercise as related to doing food challenges. And then I'm going to finish up with what I call fraud. And in the fitness industry, there's plenty of people that are conning people out of money. And like anything else, it's going to exist in any domain. And so in the food challenge domain, it's not going to be any different than anything else. And in fitness, again, I'm very familiar with. So, I mean, the same principles are going to apply, again, across different elements of domains where people are going to try and make money or think they're going to be making money, and or what gets presented to people out there and what is truth. And so with that said, again, I just want to remind everyone that these are my opinions based on my experience. And again, I'll have data to provide to you, and you can come to your own conclusions. As a part of this as well, that's all intertwined. This is going to be definitely my last video, and I'm retiring from this as a hobby. And again, there's a video that I put out that does explain how I even got into this, and you can watch that video. But I never, again, you have to eat every day, and again, nutrition is part of the whole fitness industry. So again, that tells you how I kind of fell into doing food challenges. And as part of the health part of it, no, it's the reason why I'm not going to actively look to do any food challenges has nothing to do with health aspects of it. In fact, it's just the opposite. One of the biggest challenges for me, or a challenge for me, was both parents had high blood pressure and cholesterol issues. And so for me, I don't eat anything like what you would eat in a food challenge. That's not my normal diet. However, how I fell into it, and I will share this piece, was okay with my appetite that I just normally had as a person. All I needed to do was increase the amount of healthy food that I was already eating to train to do food challenges. And so it was just an easy, natural extension of how I was already eating to begin with. So, and once I got into it, the whole blood work and keeping my physique and body fat level while I was doing challenges for about 2.5 years was a big part of my goal, kind of going into this and seeing where I'd end up. And I'm also going to share with you why, the real reasons why I'm basically finished with doing food challenges at this point. The fact that you're watching this channel, it was never an intent for me to think that I was going to be rich and famous by doing food challenges. So let's roll right into the business aspect of it. So I realized quite a while ago, even in the fitness industry, there's things that I went the wrong direction with as far as the internet goes. And I'm an engineer by day, so I'm not a business person, but it's always intrigued me along the line. So I got to really do that in the fitness industry and just kind of see Shark Tank. I love watching that show. So that whole aspect has always been super interesting to me. And so I've learned a lot along the way before I even did food challenges. So I started the channel on YouTube definitively for friends and family, and to kind of just document for myself at the same time, which is why you'll see probably more training. They're not challenges at home, training videos that on my channel compared to other channels, period. And it's, for me, the journey has been, I really enjoyed the journey, although at the end of this one, it really wasn't an enjoyment, again, which I'll talk about more And again, sorry for jumping around, but so let's get back to really the whole business aspect again. So this channel, the video you're watching now, I had to look this up. I'm using Windows Movie Maker. And so when I got into this, I recognized time is money and there's always a business case associated with everything you do. I knew right out of the gate that I wasn't going to become rich and famous. I wasn't going to make a bunch of money on YouTube because I already knew, I was at the beginning of this, I already knew that it's pennies on the dollar and it takes a ton of time to edit videos. So when you're talking about the return on investment for time, in my opinion, the business case isn't even close to being there, and it isn't close in any other domain either. And we'll talk about popularity and actually getting views to begin with. So I went into this and eyes wide open, and yeah, I did some editing and sure, I didn't want to have it like Bill Piche, okay, so Katina eats kilos, I'm like, okay, Piche eats pounds, why not? And so you won't see fancy edits. I'm using an iPhone. I've used an iPhone, started with an iPhone 8. The quote investment was a $7 tripod, which is the iPhone is sitting on right now. So I didn't take very much time and used, so Windows Movie Maker came out in the year 2000. So yes, that again corresponds to when new tech came out, and again, being an engineer and doing all the website programming and everything myself and looking to utilize new technology, I use Windows Movie Maker, and which is why, again, I continue to use it, and thank goodness I was able to download it and keep it up to this point, because you'd be hard pressed to try and find a copy of it now. And so I basically, when I was doing the videos, could do them in just lightning fast because I've used it, gosh, if you're talking 2.5 years ago, I've used it for almost 20 years on any video editing that I've done. So I was super efficient, and again, just using basic things and putting out the videos for families and friends. The fact that I actually got up to a whopping 460 subscribers is just kind of blows me away. That many, I was expecting the typical 20 views, and again, a couple times, through Instagram, I started a lot of it was experimenting just to see, for sure. Like, for example, when I put out a video, put up a post on Instagram, and actually having Piche Eats Pounds on Instagram, just to see what the results were, frankly. And I got into shorts too, just to experiment and see how the algorithm worked for YouTube, just as an experiment, which again, I never figured out, by the way. It's kind of bizarre with YouTube Shorts. So let's talk about the business case. Again, so I mentioned a bunch of things already, pennies on the dollar for YouTube, and so let's talk about market saturation as a first topic. So going into this and seeing what I have seen in the fitness industry, the concept of market saturation is a real thing. So I call it missing the boat. So I definitely missed, not that I would have had a big following or anything on YouTube, because we'll talk about what that really entails, plus not missing the boat. So in the fitness industry, to a large degree, the ship has sailed, and from my opinion, in food challenges, the ship has sailed as well. So if you think you're trying to get into, unless your reason for getting into it is just to make a little bit of money on a side hobby, it might be something where you can justify. But traveling around, buying $5,000 cameras, spending hours editing, and pulling in, pennies on the dollar in reality for the time you're putting into it, my opinion, it's delusional, because you're not going to be rich and famous. That ship has already sailed, and who's the captains of the ship? Randy Santel, Raina, Joel Hansen, Beard, Beard Meats Food. So that is, gosh, I don't know why I'm flagging on that. Beard. So that ship has already sailed with respect to being rich and famous, or at least making a Katina, of course, Katini's kilos, making a really, potentially making a living at doing this. And so they have niches, and there's, for example, Beard, he is like a comedian doing food challenges. My belief is people don't really watch him for the food part of it. He's a really funny guy. And then the other aspect of it that I've learned is you have to have a presence. So you can't be a presence on camera. That can't be taught. People are able to see when someone is genuine or being fake, to try and fake things. And there is an energy and a presence in being able to connect to people besides the niche part of it, where, like Randy, for example, turning the hat, he's a monster of a guy, and he has an energy level and a presence and just a good demeanor, in my opinion. Same thing with Katina. And so very powerful together now as a new niche when they came together. So that's just an example. I'm going to throw out there a couple examples about having a niche, and again, the whole ship has sailed. And if you look at data again, and I'm going to share this specifically, a website of a person that was on the ground floor, and I'm going to compare them. So I'm going to put this up in this video, and where I'm going to compare Beard and this other person that was on the ground floor. If you look at their subscribers, it's not bad, but you can see the discrepancy in the numbers between Beard and this person that does food challenges, has been around a long time in the food challenge game. And you guys can look at the numbers, okay? And they recently started reposting or actually being more active. And I'll let the numbers tell the story again about the ship sailing. So something I learned again along the way, and so where I'm going with this was, again, it was never a thing. I knew that I'm not going to make a bunch of money, and that ship has sailed, and what I saw in the fitness industry, and so again, editing videos takes an extremely long time. So for me, again, retiring from doing food challenges, I had already put, when I started, so I've done about, basically, I think 20, in fact, I don't even know, so 20 in 2.5 years. And we'll get into why even that was not that many when I talk about health and exercise. But so I knew going into this, I had put constraints, which of course was, I'm not going to take much time to edit. I wasn't going to put like unedited garbage up for my family and friends, because I could do a little bit better than that. And I was going to be constrained by distance I was going to be willing to drive. And so, and also you'll probably have, if you ever watch one of my videos, you'll have heard me say challenge of convenience. And that was a challenge where it literally was, I was in the area due to some other reason, and also I didn't have to go very far when I was in that area. And so early on, when I was dropping my wife off at the airport, the other constraint was, I dropped my wife off at the airport, and a couple times early on, and I did challenges, and I was victorious in the challenges. Of course, got free food, which is another piece of why I enjoyed doing food challenges, at least at the beginning. And it was pretty hollow. I didn't really enjoy it that much. The one time I was at the Broken Yoke, and it was full on a Sunday, and people were cheering and they were making a big deal out of it, and it was pretty hollow for me personally. And I walked, okay, cool, I guess. And So I walked out of there and recognized that for me, having family and especially my wife as a part of doing that was significant for me for the enjoyment. And so, which is why you do see in a bunch of my videos, my family, and it was, part of it was exploring, again, 2 hours or less or drive. So 2 hours would have been pushing it. So if the challenge had to be, unless it was a challenge of convenience, had to be within probably an hour and a half, or it wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to drive down to Miami 5 hours to do a food challenge. And so it became a family outing type of thing, never putting our normal schedule where it's the primary thing in my life to go do a food challenge. That was another constraint in making it a fun thing to explore new restaurants, kind of the foodie thing. And so that was a constraint as well as part of it. So that's why, and again, we'll get into the health and exercise part of it next. But so that's my opinion again on, and I want to share another video with you that I recently saw with Darren Eats, and share with you his perspective on, again, what I call the business side of doing food challenges and or even doing eating contests. Another piece of this, if you look at the data yourself and look at some of the best eaters in the world and their YouTube sites, that'll again, and compare it to those that are captain of the ship, so to speak, with respect to social media and making a good living out of doing food challenges and or eating contests. And you can compare the data. Just go compare the numbers, okay, of some of the best eaters in the world and their websites. Those that are in the food game are going to know who they are. And you just look at it, they're not at Nathan's necessarily, okay? So that's another thing. The best people that are doing the best eaters in the world are not necessarily those that you're going to see at Nathan's, like this year, for example. There's other people that are not part of Major League Eating that are very high level eaters. Check out their YouTube and then go compare them to Randy, Katina, and Beard, just as an example. Okay, and you'll see what I'm talking about data wise with respect to numbers, okay, and what that return is with respect to not only rich and you get the rich part of it, okay. So here we have a comparison of two videos that were put out in the food challenge arena, and you have one of the captains of the ship, Beard Meets Food, and both of the videos for these particular Beard and this other food challenger that has about 30,000 subscribers. Of course, I basically erased the names and everything to protect the innocent. And if you look, they're both 2 days ago, and Beard has 1.7 million views. And this other challenge eater, who's actually, I think, have been around longer than Beard, has a whopping 752 views. So if you look at the subs in comparison are 3 million to 30,000. And I've already talked about the views. And if you go on Social Blade, you can look at all this data, again, from a business case standpoint. So this is where I'm pulling this data from, besides obviously from the videos. So as far as per year, it's 98,000 to 1.6 million for Beard. And he right now, the other YouTuber is the minimum, I believe, which is 39 to, I believe it's $500, something like that per year. Some small amount in comparison, obviously. Not even, it's like micro amount in comparison to Beard. And as far as the ranking on Social Blade, with respect to the other YouTuber, 14 million are ranked higher. Only 14,000 are ranked higher than Beard. So if you want to look up any YouTuber and what I've been talking about with pennies on the dollar, especially given all the time and investment, the ship has sailed. You're not going to become famous. You're not going to get rich
on YouTube. You're not going to get rich in social media. And that's my opinion, and the data can back it up. And again, all you have to do, look at some of the new people that are getting into food challenges. I mean, they even have their own swag already, for goodness sakes. You know, trying to promote their YouTube channels, and it's an uphill battle. And I'm being gracious when I say that, because it's an uphill battle that, frankly, it is not going to be won. So anyway, you can look for yourself on Social Blade again. You can search anyone on YouTube and look up the stats, and I've been told it's pretty accurate. And again, I want to reemphasize, there's some of the best eaters that even established YouTube channels very early on are not becoming rich. And obviously, I've listened to a couple of them, and they're smart. They haven't given up their day jobs, for example. And one in particular just said, hey, if I can make some money from a hobby. And he even mentions that for him to travel around, and the business case isn't there. He comes flat out in one of his lives and says, the business case isn't there for me to travel around and spend the money on travel and let alone equipment and such to do food challenges with basically no money in return. And with that said, I want to share Derek Eats, who's been out of the food domain for a while, food challenge and contest domain for a while. He just posted a live, and I'm going to share with you what he said, some of his comments as to where he's been lately, because he hasn't been on YouTube. And I'll share that clip with you right now.
Anyways, when will we be back doing videos? I don't know. I'll be honest, folks. I might do like little live streams or training updates if I do Nathan's next year. But I don't know if I want to upload videos all the time like I used to. It's just a big time suck. I mean, it just took so much time. Because towards the end of it, for me to be honest, I love doing the live streams, and I always will, because I enjoy just hanging out with y'all. Y'all are cool people. But it was just a time suck. I didn't enjoy the nasty food I was making in the basement. Well, it wasn't nasty, but I just hated eating downstairs in the basement, doing all those challenges. Because truth be told, at the end of the day, I realized I'm more of a competitor than anything, and I hate just sitting there in the basement eating all this food, and then it's just not my thing. And I look back at a lot of my YouTube videos too, and I don't really think I'm a big social media YouTube personality too. And a lot of it, truth be told, especially towards the end, was forced on my end. Fake a smile through videos, but I was not enjoying it towards the end. It was more of a chore. It became work, and it was kind of disheartening. I just I don't know, I would upload, and for a while I was doing great, but then all of a sudden my views tanked. And, I was putting in all this effort, spending all this money on videos, but, I wasn't really getting much in return from the, YouTube end of things, not from you guys. But I just started getting to the point, I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not even enjoying this right now, so I stopped. Because life's too short to just, do. There's enough shitty stuff that happens in life that, there's no point in doing stuff that you don't enjoy, in my opinion. So I'm sorry, I know that sounds crappy. It's an entitled first, world take on things, but that's how I honestly felt, and I just wanted to be honest with you guys. I just got tired of it.
I think that pretty much covers the business side as I've stated it. And again, all just my opinion. You can look at the data, decide for yourself. And again, there's been lots of channels that have dropped off the planet. Mine isn't dropping off the planet as far as activity because, I got disillusioned with what the return was. And just to reiterate, look at the data and come up with your own conclusions whether the time and investment is going to be actually worth it. And again, my opinion is that ship has sailed, just like in other domain areas, as I called out fitness industry of the parallel for me, and there's plenty of other things as well, again, that are out there where the ship sailed. And so let me get into the next aspect, which is the health and exercise piece of doing food challenges.